Tunis International Radio, English program. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the English language program with Zenet Ohrani, Immerse and Fernanda Shawishi live from our studio in Tunis. I have two guests from the INAT Junior Enterprise. We'll talk about an upcoming event in the capital city, Tunis. And in the second part, we'll have Dr. Pasquale Seduto from the Food Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the Cairo office, the FAO, and also Rachael McDonnel from the ICBA, the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. I'll be back. Stick around.
All my friends are heathens, take it slow. Wait for them to ask you who you know. Please don't make any sudden moves. You don't know the half of the
21 pilots, 2 or 3 on our radio station. Welcome back. You can join me on the Facebook page, RTC English Show. With Anna Shawishi. I have two guests in the studio, Mariam and Abir. We're going to talk about the INAT Junior Enterprise. Welcome to RTC, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. What if you had to introduce yourselves? Go ahead.
Abir Arous, 21 years old, member of INAT Junior Enterprise and a student in the National Agronomic Institute of Tunis.
One of the best schools in the country. Go ahead.
Mariam Fitouri. I'm 20 years old. I'm a food industry engineering student at INAT. And I'm also a member of INAT Junior Enterprise.
One is studying agriculture and one is studying food and agriculture. And you know my guess, in the second part, I have Dr. Pasquale Seduto from the Food and Agriculture Organizations of the UN, the FAO in the Cairo office, and Rachael McDonnel from the ICBA, the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. So two different generations, but you have the same concern and the same different topics, but the same concerns. What if you had to introduce the Junior Enterprise? Go ahead.
The Junior Enterprise, it is actually a vocal economic non-profit club that is integrated in the INAT, the National Agronomic Institute, to enable students to have a practical vision of the theoretical curriculum on field. It aims to promote the culture of entrepreneurship among young future engineers, teach them how to analyze, realize and synthesize projects on field based on their previous knowledges. We work on different volets, 3 ones. The prospection and operational volet, which is basically which benefit goes to large companies, entrepreneurs, and startups, basically allowing students to participate and create projects on field, and offering these companies the opportunity to benefit from the dynamism, creativity of future engineers. We have the training volet, which concerns soft and hard skills, developing self-esteem, self-confidence. What else?
Abir, you're talking about entrepreneurship in the agricultural field. It's a challenging field, but Tunisia has always been a country of agriculture, a country where where we have very good lands and very good producers, and actually have debate on this issue. We've had this debate for a couple of weeks. Do you believe in entrepreneurship for farmers? And what about the responsibility of the state? Do you need state sponsorship? Do you need sponsorship from private banks? How does it work? And I'll ask you the same question later. Go ahead.
Well, I believe in entrepreneurship in all fields. If you want something, you can make it, you can get it, and you can work. You just have to work for it. Sponsorship depends. If you have the money and the idea, you can make it. If you have the idea that is worth it, you can get the sponsorship you need, and you can make it too.
What about you?
Well, I think this field, our field in Tunisia, it's a very rich field, but it's not used properly. So I think planting entrepreneurship in the minds of the students is very important. So we can make them believe in themselves, believe they can become successful entrepreneurs. Um,
Linet is one of the best schools in the country. It's very difficult to graduate. You have to study for 2 years, then for 3 years, and more. Yeah, at the beginning too. Then 3 years is very difficult. You have to study too many things. I do have friends who studied at Linet. It's very very difficult. But later when you graduate, you have some people who have the opportunity to work in this field because they have agriculture in one of the regions of the country, while others, they have the diploma, they have the skills, but they don't have the resources. Don't you think it's a real challenge for young entrepreneurs, but also young farmers, young engineers, to work in this field? This is why I'm talking about the state sponsorship, but also the role of the private banks. Does any bank help young entrepreneurs in agricultural field?
well, our sponsors, especially for this event, are mainly companies, agricultural companies. But in bigger events, we aim to contact banks to be our sponsors. I mean,
Forget about the event. You're going to graduate in a couple of weeks or a couple of months or in 2 years. You have a project. You need 100,000 dinars or more because you need equipment. You need land in the northwest or in the south of the country. You don't have the resources. Your parent is not rich. You don't have grandmother has a land, and you have to work. How does it work? Do you go to a bank? Do you go to the ministry to look for help, to look for support, to look for sponsorship? How does it work?
Well, you don't just go to a bank and like knock the doorway. Hi, I have a project and like give me money. No,
Yeah.
it doesn't work like that. If you have an idea, you have to like work it greatly. Have a file with risk management, with the idea, the name, everything. You have to like study everything and then give a full file, well studied, well done, in order to have the chance, and not to say the sponsorship, the chance to get some money.
How much time do you need to work on a project?
It depends on the project. If you
The business plan, the resources, the equipment, and everything.
It depends on the person, on the person and the people, because some people have a project in their heads like since they were kids, and some people just develop a project while studying. So it depends. If you have a plan since a kid, you can like, it won't take you that much time after you study. You have everything ready in
Do
your
you have a
head.
plan?
actually, I don't have a plan. I have an explanation. So, as I said earlier, Abir and I are just freshmen. It's our first year in INET. So, we joined INET the Junior Enterprise because we heard so much about their
Activities.
activities. Yes, we have activities that involve teaching us how to be entrepreneurs, teaching us how to make a business plan and everything. So that's the main reason behind why we joined this club.
So you have students, you have maybe teachers and members on the administration, but do you have former students at INET, people who graduated from INET who are now maybe entrepreneurs, farmers, consultants with international organizations? We do have even the prime minister, current prime minister, studied at INET.
Economics. I don't
Yeah.
know.
So how does it work? Do you have the whole networking? Do you need the support of people who studied at INET? How does it work?
Yes, it's actually the phenomenon of networking that works. We have people working with GEZ, the German Federation.
Yeah, very
uh,
active
yes.
organization in Tunisia.
The
It's
Prime
helping and
Minister,
supporting
like you
too many
said.
projects.
The Prime Minister, like you said. We have professors, we have other students working in other interpreters, and there is the definition of networks, like everyone knows everyone and everyone helps everyone, which is the base point of the event of tomorrow.
We'll talk later about the event, tomorrow's event, a very short track, and we'll be back with Faisal Ahlali. Thank you, Faisal.
Up on cloud number 9.
Cloud number 9 by Brian Adams, 216, our radio station. You can join us on the Facebook page, RTC English Show with Adnan Shawishi. You can find the videos and photos of today's program. Ladies, you have the floor. Tell us about tomorrow's event.
So tomorrow, our club, INAT Junior Enterprise, is organizing an event.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually the 4th edition of this event. It's been a success for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's entitled La Journée de l'Entreprise.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, it's going to take place tomorrow on the 12th of October at our institute, INAT. So this event is under the supervision of the Minister of Agriculture,
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Samir Tayeb, and it mainly targets agronomists or agronomy engineering students
Mm-hmm.
who have the potential and the will to become successful entrepreneurs, but lack the tools and the right guiding to become ones. So it also targets those in search of a job, an internship in companies from our field, or even a loaded contact list.
Abir.
Well, I don't know what to add to that. So just anyone who's out there who's looking forward for something in agronomy one day, agronomists, engineers, like she said, or even LMD students,
Mm-hmm.
come, mingle, have contacts, get to know people. You don't know, maybe like the chance of your life is waiting for you.
Some students, they start looking for a job 1 year before the graduation ceremony, and they think that it's enough. Well, they should look for a job from the first year, from the first week at university. This is how I say things. If you study, if you graduate, if you sit for exams and get your diploma after 6 years without even looking for an internship, without knowing people, I think it's not the right way of doing things. You should start looking for a job from the
Right
first
now.
week
Yeah.
at university. Maybe this is behind the spirit of INA Junior Enterprise.
Exactly.
You start looking for a job, looking for an internship from the first year at university. Is this how it works?
Yes, it is. It's like INAT Junior Enterprise is actually like a mini company that offers you the first professional experience that takes you to like the first step in the professional field. So it gives you the opportunity to work, study, and practice everything that you studied on field.
Abir, Mariam.
So as I said, we're engineering students. We have everything we need. In 3 years, we're going to have a diploma, but we lack the tools,
Mm-hmm.
the expertise. So that's what INAT Junior Enterprise offers us.
Yeah, tell us about you're talking about the expertise. Tell us about the guests that you will have at this event and maybe the experts. You'll have the Minister of Agriculture, but what about experts and people who could really help?
So can I start telling what's
Yeah,
going to
of
happen
course.
throughout
Yeah,
the whole day?
great, go
Okay,
ahead.
so
Yeah, sure.
at 8 a.m., the registration starts. We welcome the participants and everything. Then at 9 a.m.,
Mhm.
the Secretary of State, Mr. Omar Al-Behi, will be given the opening speech, along with the General Director of our institute, Mr. Ilyas Hamza, and the President of INAT Junior Enterprise. So after that, starts the first series of conferences,
Mhm.
during which many high-esteemed guests will intervene to discuss hot topics in our field, mainly about entrepreneurship, why become an entrepreneur and how to become one. So these guests are going to have amazing success stories to tell,
Mhm.
to teach us the secrets of their success and everything. So we're going to be having people from Bayer, we're going to be having people from Ruspina,
Mhm.
which are big, huge companies in our field that are going to set the steps for us.
Are they providing sponsorship?
Yes. We have many sponsors, among which is SNA, Bioprotection, and Bayer.
Are they? When I talk about the sponsorship, do you have a budget for this event and for upcoming events?
Yes, we have a budget for this event.
For example, to invite prominent guests from abroad to come to INAT and to talk about important issues. Because this is how it works. You need to finance projects. You need sponsorship in
Of
order to
course.
bring in experts.
Yes. For this event, we targeted practically sponsors from our field,
Mhm.
because at the event tomorrow, we're gonna have stands. Each company is gonna have a stand, and we're gonna assure the direct contact between the experts and the students and the participants. In other events, maybe we can enlarge our circle of search for sponsors.
Abir.
Like you just asked if we brought people from abroad to participate. We don't actually have that kind of money for such an event, but maybe in the future, projects that could be assured with different sponsors.
A very short track and we'll be back. California Dreaming. Enjoy.
All the leaves are brown and the sky is gray.
Faisal Halili, 227 on radio station. Welcome back. I have my guests are going to leave the studio. They're from INAT. Ladies, your message and your call for people to join for tomorrow's event.
Okay, so last year we had 700 participants, which is huge.
700 participants.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this year we aim to have like 1,000 at least participants. So we invite everyone to come, mingle with the companies and everything. The participants are gonna have brochures for further details. And I would also like to thank our director of the institute, Mr. Elias Hamza.
You will find experts, Tunisian and foreign experts at the event at INAT. You will have experts in agriculture. You have teachers, professors, former students, and people in the business and in the industry. I invite you to join the girls. You can find everything on the Facebook page, RTC English Awadat and Shawishi. Ladies, I want to thank you very much for coming. I have
Thank
our
you.
next guests. I have
Thank you.
Dr. Pasquale Seduto from Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, the Cairo office, and Rachael McDonnel from the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Stick around. Summer of 6 to 9 by Brian Adams, 232 on our radio station. You can join us on Facebook page, RTC English Show. And then I have two guests in the studio, Dr. Pasquale Seduto from the Food Agriculture Organization of the UN, from the Cairo office, and Rachael McDonnel from the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. Welcome to RTC.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming on. I want to thank Feten Awedi for her effort. She's very, very, very active lady, proud of Tunisian ladies. So I want to welcome you on Tunis International Radio. Ladies first.
Thank you.
So what is the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture?
We are an international research centre based in Dubai, but we work all across the Middle East, North Africa, West Africa, and into parts of Central Asia. And what we do is we try and help farmers, governments, decision makers in areas of agriculture that isn't prime agricultural land. So this might be land that's a little bit salty, or there's not enough water there, or areas that are more challenging. And because of the big problems with food security, we know we have to use those lands as well as prime agricultural lands.
Mr. Pasquale Seduto.
Yeah.
So
Well,
you're working for the FAO. We don't have to present the FAO. It's very active in our region and also in the whole world. But we've been facing, or are still facing, important challenges, like the agriculture faces important challenges from now to 2050. We have to satisfy an estimated population of 9 billion people, and now we're facing serious challenges with water in our region, but also in other parts of the world. What if we had to talk about this challenge, especially, for example, in Tunisia? We are here in Tunisia. We have faced this challenge during the summer of 2016, despite the fact that we are not, the environment in Tunisia is not like in other Middle Eastern and African states. How do you look at this challenge? How do you explain the fact that by 2050 we'll have more complex challenges with the water?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is a trend in terms of demands on the food, not only in water directly, in terms of potable water or the industry or the urbanization. The point is that with demographic growth, you have the demand for food, and to produce a food, you need water. So the point is that in this region, including, of course, Tunisia, but Near East, North Africa, but like you said, also all over the world, there is a so-called intensification of water scarcity. Basically, the demand is continuously increasing while the supply is or the same or even getting worse because of the climate change and the drought impacting basically the flow of this water availability. So we are facing this imbalance between demand and supply, and what we are trying to do is how to face these challenges, what type of measure can be put in place in order to cope with this water scarcity and climate change vis-a-vis the food security and other development demand. So on one side there is the issue of making order in each one house. Basically the country needed to look at their performance in terms of agriculture productivity. So for the same amount of water they needed to maximize what is their let's say production per unit of land, but also per unit of cubic meter of water. And this requires, in good practice to be adopted. It requires maybe new technology, new governance. So those type of measures are in a dialogue among the country in order to increase and reduce the gap of performance that they might have. On the other side, just to give you the example that is not enough just producing food, but we need also to reduce the waste and the losses over the
waste and the losses
exactly of food at a household level. For instance, we already have an estimate that overall more than 30% of the food produced is wasted, which means you waste all the resources.
I'd like to confirm what you have just said. Actually, in Tunisia, a recent study has been published. Tunisians they lose about 64 dinars per month, so they consume, but they also lose. You could imagine 64 dinars, which is about 30 euros.
Right.
So I confirm that there is production, but also people do not consume everything. They lose quantities of food, quantities of the production. They should normally protect. They should normally just consume what they need. I want to ask you the same question, Dr. Rachael McDonnel. The center is based in Abu Dhabi, a very active city. We are also facing the challenges in the region, facing the challenges in Abu Dhabi. What about the ICBA when you talk about the scarcity of water, the impact of the scarcity of water on regional development? The development, you cannot talk about development, you don't have the water. And if you could relate to the same question with Dr. Pasquale Studuto.
What we know is that unfortunately in our region you cannot reproduce water very well. I mean, desalination is very, very expensive. So it's not an option open to many countries, and so exactly what Pasquale said, we have to be smarter with the type of water we use. And what we have to do is we have to think beyond just normal what is fresh water. We have treated wastewater, we have many other sorts of water that we can use, and we have to be thinking about how can we use those in our water balancing, water budgets across people at home, farmers that need it, industry needs it, tourism needs it, all these different parts of the economic sector. How do you allocate the fresh water? And one of the biggest drivers is that humans can only consume fresh water. We cannot take salty water, for example. Whereas some plants can take salty water. We can't consume treated wastewater, whereas plants can. We can irrigate with treated wastewater. So we have to be thinking about, of those different types of water we can use, how can we allocate them smartly And we know that this all also comes down to economic and social development. We need to ensure our economies are able to perform. We need to know that the people are safe and well in the food that they eat and the water that they drink. So I think it's a big balancing act.
Dr. Pasquale Seduto from the Food Agriculture Organization of the UN. Producing more food while using less water is a challenge for governments, a challenge for farmers. Do you think it's possible for a scientist, for an expert, to produce more by using less water?
Well, there are different approaches. There is not one single silver bullet in this, let's say, response to produce more with less. But definitely there are opportunity for intensification. As I mentioned before, there is still underperformance in several parts of the world. And that is where we think you can still increase the productivity for each cubic meter of water. So you can produce more with less. But of course, there is a limit to what you can do. That's why cannot be only relying on the idea of producing more with less, maybe introducing new technology or biotechnology, new resistant crops to drought. These are I don't want to say marginal, but still insufficient increment that can provide more with less.
Does it depend on technology?
Not only. It doesn't depend only on technology. Technology, like we said, if you want to act on the supply side, yes, you have the opportunity to desalinize seawater, for instance, but then you come with a trade-off. The brine, the disposal of this process, where is going to go? These are big amounts. So far, the desalinization was mostly for urban use. It was reasonable. But even though, let's see, in the Gulf, most of the fauna of and fish and stockfish in the sea, in the ocean, is one of the lowest in the world, which means there is an environmental impact of desalinization. It's not only an economic problem, it's also an environmental problem. When I move from potable water, which is maybe for each person can be 2, 3, 4 liters per day, to the amount of food needed for each person, we go through 3,000, 4,000, even sometimes 5,000 cubic meter of water per day used to produce the amount of the dietary needs of one person. This is something that is not well known. That's why agriculture is where you have the largest uses of water to produce food. So you can introduce some technology on the supply side. You can introduce new varieties that are more resistant to, let's say, water scarcity or drought, that are more tolerant. But the problem is that it's not sufficient to act only on that side. You need to act on the demand side. And what we were saying before, on the waste and losses, you can even act on the diets. There are diets that are much more healthy, at the same time reduce the demand of water to produce the component of the diets. You mentioned before in the Gulf country, for instance, there is a lot of obesity. Okay, so there is an excess of use of calories, which means you are also consuming more food, which means more water that you really need. So you have the double impact, the health, and at the same time the natural resources. So there are all these combination at different levels need to be.
Rachael McDonnel from the ICBA, the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, which is based in Abu Dhabi. Originally, it's focused on the problems of salinity and using saline water for irrigated agriculture. The government of Abu Dhabi is investing billions in important projects for the UAE, but also projects for many countries in the whole region. It works, but as Dr. Pasquale Seduto has said, it has an impact on the environment. Is it easy to find this balance between investing between this economic boom and at the same time preventing the impact on the environment. It's a real challenge. It's a challenge in the US, in Europe, but also a challenge in the Middle East and in the Gulf region.
And I think that the impact comes in many different areas. For example, in energy, we're using much more energy with petroleum exports, petroleum imports, where, you know, the region is an petroleum exporter. But you can see great strides. I mean, the UAE government has invested a lot in solar energy, and ever increasing. And I think it's very important that we have these projects in our region, which, when we can make sure that they work, they're transferable from there, we can take them to other countries like Tunisia, like Morocco, where this can really help with it all. And yes, there is a lot of development, whether this is in housing or business development. And what we have to do is we have to ensure that when that development takes place, is we do harness energy efficient houses, water efficient gardens, or water efficient industries. The technologies there are being very much pushed in, being very much introduced into the Gulf states, and we need to make sure that they're exported then to other areas with that those new developments.
Dr. Pasquale Seduto, when you look at the alarming level of floods and droughts across the world, we've been following what happened in the US a few weeks ago, but also what happened in Tunisia during the summer and other countries. It is an alarming level, and is it the result of inefficient strategies, inefficient policies? We've been focusing on building more, on producing more, but we forgot about the impact on the environment.
Definitely, we are in the so-called anthropogenic era, which means there is a lot of human impact on the natural resources and on the environment of the planet. What we are observing with these extreme events like drought, floods, hurricanes, like the latest Matthews in the United States, these are expression of climate change and disorder that come not only, I would say, from the increase in CO2 of the atmosphere, but also in the change of the land use. Big surfaces that have been, taken off by green vegetation, forest, and so on. High urbanization with a clogged square kilometers of surface. This changed the modality of exchange between the surface and the atmosphere. So the circulation of the air is not anymore of what was more naturally going before. This introduce disorder that sometimes is very hard to predict. And this is happening also for the ocean. The hurricane, for instance, are because most of the surface of the water is increasing. So this generates more water vapor, generates higher frequency of this extreme event. So in a way, yes, we have underestimated, or sometimes we were not even aware of what we were doing. The problem is that until we were doing this, let's say we were neglecting the environment when we were a couple of million at the most. Let's say that the planet was able to take care of it, by his own natural processes of recycling. But now that we are already, too many, and we are expecting to become 10, maybe 9 to 10 billion, now is not anymore possible that the planet can absorb whatever the human being is doing. So it's too much and I cannot stand.
We need 2 more planets at least.
Yes, if you look at the footprint network, that is an association around the world that looks at the natural resources used by this, by the human being, they have estimated that, for instance, if everybody nowadays that would live at the standard of life of United States, you need 5 planets, or even more.
Miss Rachael McDonnel from the ICBA, the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. I've been following the debate between experts in Tunisia, and have been mentioning a new term, which is water governance. It's also an issue for the ICBA, but also an issue for the FAO. Water governance is a real challenge. In the region, because of lack of water and because of the environment, and it's also an issue in African states and also in the whole world. Do you believe that governments could agree on water governance principles, or water governance, let's say, principles which could be applied by many countries in the world, especially countries facing droughts and facing problems with water in general?
There are a whole series of
scarcity of water.
Yeah, a whole series of international agreements in Bonn and Rio de Janeiro, in which there are 4 or 5 principles of water governance that have been have agreed by governments. Most international governments. As with everything, the devil is in the detail. So if we look at somewhere like Tunisia or any of the countries in the region, if you look at their water laws, they're very good. They follow international best practice. There are sound water institutions. The biggest challenge, whether it's in the MENA region, but in many parts of the world, is actually implementing those laws. So, for example, we did a project on groundwater governance. This is all about understanding who owns the groundwater and who is allowed to take out how much. And the biggest problem is there is very little control on the abstraction, the taking out of that water. And there are laws that restrict it, but actually applying those laws and being able to go to, the well owner, usually a farmer or rural area, being able to say, actually, you're only allowed to take out 20% of what you've abstracted, because that water belongs to the next generation, or that water is important to our national security. There isn't the implementing organisations, the regulators, the officers going out and measuring and controlling that. So in terms of water governance, it means strong institutions, it means leveraging innovation. So now we can, for example, look at how much water is being used by using satellite images and using modelling. So that's something we
the
are...
impact of the...
Yeah, so what, and we can use sensors. So it's all about, yes, we know there's a problem in governance, but we need to have evidence to prove just how much we're over abstracting or how much water we're taking that is against the law. And then using that, because you just can't go out and measure every single well. So I think technology is going to help with water governance, and it's really just harnessing that and then bringing that as into the whichever ministry, whichever directorate is responsible for that to help them do their job.
Dr. Pasquale is the from the FAO. Signing agreements and drafting laws is not enough. People need to be informed, farmers need to be informed, but also ministries. The FAO supports programs that improve the governance of water for more efficient, transparent, and equitable use of water for agriculture. It's a whole program for the FAO. It's a project for the FAO, but it's also a challenge. Water governance works in some countries, but it doesn't work in other countries. What is the main challenge? Why it does not work, despite the fact that we have signed agreements? It doesn't work in some countries.
Well, let's put it this way.
Excuse me. Some analysts claim it's because of the infrastructure. Sometimes you don't have the infrastructure to talk about water governance.
Well, that's also in part, but we needed to put this into the right context. The governance comes when you have to get institution, people, society together, and you have to set the rules of how to manage certain things. So it's an instrument, is a tool, if you want, to regulate the behavior in managing certain resources. So as long as we talk about principles of governance and maybe looking at the experience of the others, we can identify some ideal or optimal solution in terms of governance. But then when you put in practice, you still have a people behind, you have a old generation, new generation of people, of scientists or staff, the complexity of implementing the governance requires also, even when we do the laws, you need to reinforce that law. You have to make it respected law. So it's more complex to, that what looks like to get a governance that really can work. Because you have, in several cases, good governance arrangement. The structure, the ministry, the interministerial body, you have a signed agreement, but then when you go in practice, you still have a gap. And this is not only infrastructure, it's cultural. Sometimes you need to have an evolution from, we were talking while coming here, we can still observe territorial behavior. I am from the institute such and such, and I don't work with this, I don't work with that, are just a simple example, which are cultural. So you need to work. It will take some time, but definitely starting with a good governance structure is already the first step.
Mr. Rachael McDonnel from the International Center for Biosaline Agriculture, we are aware of the problems in Tunisia, the challenges you are facing in agriculture, but also problems related to water scarcity. When you talk to experts in Tunisia, what you say? What is your proposal? What is your thesis? About what's happening in Tunisia? I'm sure you're aware of what's happening in the country. How do you work? How do you talk?
Well, what's been fascinating, we are here for a workshop on drought, and we've just listened to some incredible presentations by very capable Tunisian water engineers or agricultural engineers. And so what we know is that you have knowledge here, you have all sorts of information. But what is important is to help governments in decision making using that information wisely to make sure policies are aligned. One of the biggest challenges we often see across the region, across the world is, for example, the ministry responsible for water is often different from the ministry responsible for agriculture. And so you get this, the agriculture ministry is under pressure to grow more food, the Ministry of Water is often under pressure to save water. So how do you, within the same government, align those ministries, align those policy ideals? So yes, and you also have politics. There is no, it's always this joke that there is no decision in water that isn't political. So we can have technical experts who will be able to explain exactly the issues involved and how to solve them, but being able to put them into a political context. And people don't vote for water, they vote for other things. They'll vote for education, they'll vote for health. So the governments or the policy ideas that are strong within particular political parties are not necessarily endorsed when it comes to bringing in that new government.
Thank you. Dr. Pasquale Istituto, we have feedback on Facebook, and people are asking about the challenge. They say agriculture faces the complex challenges between now and 2050. What if you had in 30 seconds what is your message to the people who are listening, to experts who are listening? They need to work together. Forget about problems, forget about cultural differences. We have an issue. We might have belong to different countries and have different languages, but we are facing at the end the same challenge. So what is your message?
Okay, to me, let's put it this way. Each individual can do something. It's not only the government, it's not only the institution, the governance, or the policy, but also each of us as individual can do something. I would say if everybody of us would be fully aware, like we would have been in the past, for the impact on the environment, concerning water, we should start to learn to know how much is the footprint of everything we dress, we eat, and we use around us, from coffee to clothes to diets and everything. Be more aware that, because if you are aware, you may reduce your pressure on the water resources by balancing better what you are consuming as an individual.
Dr. Pasquale Seduto from the FAO, the Cairo office, and Ms. Rachael McDonnel from the ICBA, the Abu Dhabi-based International Center for Biosaline Agriculture. And I thank you very much for coming, for sharing your experience. I hope to have you here in the future for like 1 hour or even more. I want to thank Faten Awedi for her valuable contribution to today's edition. Thank you very much for coming.
Thanks to you.
This is the place you can call home.
Definitely.
For our listeners, you can find everything on the Facebook page, RTC English with Adnan Shawishi. I'll be traveling for a couple of weeks. You'll have Hayat and Houdet. So I want to thank Faisal Hariri for the valuable technical assistance. Coming next, German language program with Monzor Labiev. Until I meet again on maybe in 3 weeks. I'm your host, Adnan Shawishi. Stick around and goodbye from Tunis. Sonic, enjoy.
You give me such a vibe. I totally